everybody, welcome in, welcome in. This is Todd with Zilla Fantasy Elite, going to go over our Week 13 DFS show here with the adjusted line play report. As always, if you enjoy these adjusted line play reports, give me a subscribe, hit that bell so you can get the notification every time a video drops on my end. And go ahead and give me a follow over on Twitter at Toddzilla1337. That's the Twitter account. It's not always fantasy football, but certainly can give me a subscribe over there and get any other tidbits of information that I post there for fantasy football and any conversations I might end up with some of the other DFS people in the industry. And then always Facebook. You can find me in my page there, which is Zilla Fantasy Elite. Get a lot more in-depth stuff. I post pictures of, hey, like about to do this, or I post my DFS lineups there on Facebook. So go ahead and search on Facebook, Zilla Fantasy Elite, and go give that page a follow. And with that being said, let's get our Week 13 underway. Very interesting slate here. We have 11 games on the main slate, which is the noon and afternoon games there. The Sunday night football game, the 2 Monday night footballs, and the Tuesday night football are not on the main slate. So we've got 11 games. We actually have 3 games above 50, at least at the time of this making of the video, which is Cleveland at Tennessee, which is number 1. We have Jacksonville at Minnesota, which is coming in at number 2. And then number 3, we have Indianapolis at Houston, which has actually been bet down since it opened at 51 point total. And then the next closest after those top 3 games, it drops from 51 all the way down to 48.5 points for the Rams and Cardinals game. So there's a pretty big gap between the top 3 games. And then a bunch of people that are sitting there kind of in between, like 46.5, 48.5, that are all smashed in there between pretty much the couple bottom end ones, and then you got all those guys in the middle, and then the 3 top games on the slate. So with that being said, keep that in mind when I'm going over these things. I'll give the Vegas point totals and kind of where they are on the slate, and then any adjusted line play report matchups that we might see that we could exploit and hopefully win some money. So first game on the slate, New Orleans at Atlanta, replay from 2 weeks ago when we saw good old Taysom Hill pop in there for his first quarterback start in NFL history, or in his NFL career. And starting him at tight end was a pretty dope idea back then. If you didn't do that, you need to reconsider what the heck you're doing in DFS. He only came in at like 65% roster percentage in the couple tournaments that I was in, which is absurd when you can start a tight end that's going to be playing quarterback, especially against Atlanta. But with that being said, New Orleans at Atlanta, it's a 45-point total this week. That's actually 9th out of the 11 games on the slate. Not a whole lot to really attack in this game as far as the adjusted line play report is concerned. We actually have the New Orleans defense. So if we take a peek here, their defense in rushing adjusted line yards is second. They're first in defensive pass rush. They have been playing lights out for weeks now, in the better part of 2 months, basically. And then we can look at Atlanta's run block offense, 19th. Pass protection, 21st. Those are pretty significant gaps. I expect New Orleans' defense to dominate this game, even at Atlanta. Atlanta 3-point underdogs in this 45-point total game, even at home. So keep that in mind. I think New Orleans' defense is in play this week. Certainly could get plenty of turnovers. And with the defense getting after the quarterback like that, you always want to kind of attack the lower A-dot targets on the other side of the ball when that happens. So look at the Atlanta lower A-dot targets. You'd be looking at Russell Gage and Hayden Hurst. And the next game on the slate would be Cleveland at Tennessee. We have a 53.5-point total. That's actually being bet up by Vegas, and that is number 1 on the slate this week out of the 11 games. And this is a game that I'm probably going to stack a lot of. It is the highest, so probably expect some higher rostership percentages there. But you can get unique in this game, I think. The Tennessee offense all around, run blocking offense, second versus Cleveland's defense, which is 20th. That's a pretty big mismatch. And then you look at that pass protection, 6th, Cleveland 19th in the pass protection or in the pass rush. So they're not getting after the quarterback as well as you would think. They are getting Myles Garrett back. That could be a little factor there, but I think you can start pretty much anybody on the Tennessee offense that you would like. Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, Derrick Henry, maybe even Jonnu Smith, especially if you think Myles Garrett coming back, they're going to get a little bit more pressure on Tannehill. You could maybe throw Jonnu Smith in there as just a way to gain leverage on the rest of the field, who's probably going to be smashing Derrick Henry or A.J. Brown and Tannehill on their stacks and get a little bit different there starting Jonnu. Obviously, Henry is a good play there. Second in run blocking offense there. Cleveland 20th against the run. People can run on them, no problem. And then going to the Cleveland side, I think you can start everybody on their offense there too. So you look at their offensive run blocking, 3rd, Tennessee 13th. They're kind of middle of the road, a little bit better than average on the run blocking defense, but Cleveland 3rd in the run blocking. I think they'll be able to run on Tennessee. That's happened with these high, really good run blocking offenses like Minnesota when Dalvin Cook faced Tennessee. He just ran all over them. I think Cleveland will do the same. And then even with that being said, look at 17th in pass protection. Cleveland's kind of middle of the road. They're not great, but Tennessee really does not generate any pressure on the quarterback, so they're one of the worst there. And I think they'll be able to move the ball on the ground and through the air. And we saw last week when Cleveland had a plus matchup there in the pass protection range, we saw Landry come out and ball out and have a really big game. I think Austin Hooper's also in play here. Tennessee is like bottom 3 for sure against tight ends, if not the worst in adjusted DVOA against the tight end there. So I think Hooper, if you want to get a nice tight end piece from this, that's not Jonnu. If you want to get a little bit different from what a lot of people are doing, you could probably look at Hooper as a piece from this game too. But I think all of these guys are in play here in that offense, and I can see why Vegas has us as the highest total on the week and the fact that they're betting it up from when it opened. So get pieces from that game. Next game we have Detroit at Chicago, getting basically from bad to the best to back to bad here. Detroit at Chicago, 44.5 point total there. That's actually being bet down on the Vegas end, and we have Chicago as 3-point home favorites. Basically, I have just the note of the Bears passing game here. We look at their offensive pass protection, 16th. That's middle of the road, exactly middle of the road, but Detroit not generating really any pressure on the quarterback. I think Chicago will be able to pass the ball, so you might be able to sneak in a Trubisky there. I don't think people are going to be playing him. He's going to be very low rostered in some of your tournaments here, I think, and he could be a sneaky play that comes out and just balls out. Has one of those, 4 or 5 touchdown games that he's had in the past. Who is he going to be throwing it to? You're going to be looking at Allen Robinson. He's hyper-targeted him his entire career when he's been there. He had another big game when he came back last week. Look for Robinson. And then I think Darnell Mooney. If you're going to give Chicago some time, Matt Nagy has designed plays for him deep pretty much every single game. If Trubisky can just connect with Mooney on that, I think Mooney might be able to get a long touchdown in this game as well. And then if you want to play the narrative where Detroit's run defense is pretty bad, Chicago is not very good at run blocking, and they've been kind of poor the entire year, but Detroit's so bad at the run game, Chicago might find themselves being able to rush the ball better than usual. And Montgomery's also an option out of the backfield as far as catching passes. He did catch quite a few last week, but a lot of that was in garbage time in the fourth quarter. He got like 4 or 5 targets there in the final 10 minutes or so in that game against Green Bay. Just keep that in mind. And then on the Detroit side, I would say the lower A-dot targets, I expect Detroit probably to be behind in this game. Chicago, I think, will be able to move the ball on them. But the lower A-dot targets with Chicago's pass rush being 13th and Detroit's offensive pass protection at 26th. So you're looking at Stafford throwing the ball to Hawkinson most likely, and maybe Mohamed Sanu there along with his old buddy from the Bengals, Marvin Jones Jr. Those would be the guys I'd be looking at. But If I'm going to get any piece of Detroit, it's just going to be Hawkinson and maybe Sanu as a deep dart throw, who's super cheap and did see quite a bit of action last week. So keep that in mind. Next game we have Cincinnati at Miami. 42.5-point total. Vegas basically still the same on that. This is the worst game on the slate for the Vegas total. Miami, 11.5-point favorite. So Cincinnati, just 16-point implied total there, really low. From the adjusted line play report, we're just looking at the Miami defense. They're on the bottom here, 14 versus 25, 21 versus 31. Cincinnati's offensive and defensive lines are just atrocious. You can see 31, 31, 32. Their best is actually their pass protection at 25th. So Cincinnati not a threat on defense or offense on the line. With that being said, if Miami's defense is in play and they're going to be getting after the quarterback, you're going to be looking at Cincinnati's lower A-dot targets, which is going to be your Tyler Boyd and your Drew Sample for Cincinnati there. And you saw last week, like I said, Brandon Allen over there in Cincinnati, he targets the tight end quite a bit. So Drew Sample, if you're punting tight end, I haven't really looked at the FanDuel and DraftKings slates yet this week, so I don't know what he's priced at, but he could be somebody, if you're absolutely punting at tight end, that's going to see quite a decent target volume there in that game, especially if they're going to be down by a bunch. Jacksonville at Minnesota. We have a 52.5-point total here, and that is being bet up from Vegas from where it opened. We have Minnesota actually at 10-point home favorite, so they're expecting them to be up big. On this, I think Minnesota offense, everything is in play here. So we look at run blocking first. Jacksonville 14th, slightly better than middle of the road there. They were previously better, but Jacksonville's rush defense isn't entirely bad, but Minnesota number one in run blocking offense. The only thing I have a question mark here is Dalvin Cook banged up. They might not give him a massive workload. They're not quite in the playoffs, so they might ride him as well. But if they're looking at getting in the playoffs and they need him healthy for the offense to basically operate properly, I think Cook might not get the workload that we're used to. And I'm assuming, like I said, I haven't looked at the slates yet. I'm assuming Dalvin Cook is way expensive yet again. Basically cost prohibitive at this point, especially if he's got question marks on his volume that he's going to get in this game. If they're going to be up, I could see them leaning on Alexander Mattison a little bit more. And if you really want to get contrarian or play the narrative game, you could say maybe he leaves early with an injury, or they just hold him back because they get up big, and then Alexander Mattison has a huge game. He's going to be bottom of the barrel price on all these sites most likely. But on the passing end, we have Minnesota's pass protection 20th. They're not very good at pass protection, but Jacksonville's 30th in the pass rush. Minnesota's going to have more time than usual, and Cousins he gets a lot of flack, but he's an actual very good quarterback, especially when he gets time. He's one of the best in the league. And surprising, he's top 3 in a lot of these quarterback metrics as far as touchdown percentage, average yards per attempt and all that. He's top 3 in the league, and a lot of people don't know that just because he's got lower volume, but he's super efficient. So if they're going to be scoring a bunch of points, 31-point team total there, so 4 touchdowns and a field goal essentially, if they're not going to be giving a ton of work to Cook or Madison, either or. Maybe they're going to be getting it through the pass game. Then you're looking at Cousins being in play, Adam Thielen being in play, and Justin Jefferson. And then maybe one of the tight ends there. If Irv Smith is out, you could potentially look at Rudolph at scoring a touchdown. But, I'd be looking at Cousins, Thielen, Jefferson. The target is pretty much funneled right to those two guys for the most part. Then on the Jacksonville side, we have 5th in offensive run blocking, Minnesota 28th on the adjusted line yards on defense. So James Robinson yet again in play. He's been in the worst possible scenarios all year, and he's produced week in and week out solid numbers in rushing yards. It's just a matter of whether or not he gets into the end zone. Vegas says, hey, high point total. They're expecting 3 touchdowns from Jacksonville. Maybe Robinson finds the end zone here once or twice. So get him in your lineups as well, especially in those redraft leagues. He definitely is in play this week. Indianapolis at Houston is the next game we have here, 51-point total. And as I said, this is third out of the 11 games. The next closest is that 48.5-point total from the Rams and the Cardinals this week. So this is the lower end of those top three games. This game is being bet down from where it opened. Indy at Houston was the top one when it opened, and now it's bet down to the third. So the heavy hitters that are betting lots of money on this are betting that the point total is going to be a little bit down from where it opened. The adjusted line play report is suggesting that you can play Indianapolis defense here. Number 10 in adjusted line yards on the run. Houston 32nd in offensive run blocking. Don't expect Houston to run the ball, period. So what are we looking at pass rush-wise? Indianapolis 16th. Houston 30th in pass protection. Bad offensive line all around for Houston there. I don't know if they're getting DeForest Buckner back this week. I think he tested positive for COVID, but if Buckner's coming back, I don't expect Houston to have a very good game in general. If he's out, I think Houston should be able to move the ball. And even with that being said, if he is in there or out, I think Indianapolis can still get after Houston just because of their bad line, which is going to lead to your Houston lower A-dot targets. I think you're going to be looking not at Brandon Cooks, even though he can get that done, but you're going to be looking at Kiki QT and Isaiah Coulter as really bottom-end people. They just traded away Kenny Stills a few weeks ago. Cobb is on IR, and as we know, Will Fuller just got suspended, so that's left with Brandon Cooks and Jordan Akins as the guys that were kind of out there and running routes in general, and then subbing in for Cobb and Will Fuller, we'll have Kiki QT and Isaiah Coulter filling in those roles. And I think QT is going to be filling in that Cobb role in the slot, and then you'd have Isaiah Coulter, the bigger body guy, being on the outside, probably more likely filling in that role that Will Fuller filled. And Coulter's a rookie. You never know if you want to toss him out there and, pray for the best. Good luck. But if I'm going to be getting anybody from the Houston A-dot, it'd probably be Kiki QT or more likely Jordan Aiken at tight end. He's probably going to be heavily targeted in this game, and Watson isn't afraid to throw to his tight ends, especially in the red zone. So 24-point total there from Houston for their implied total. They could see Jordan Aiken with a decent game there this week. Next game on the slate, we have Las Vegas at the New York Jets. This is a 47-point total. This is being bet down by Vegas, which is now currently 7th out of the 11 games on the slate. The big takeaway from this one is the adjusted line play report is suggesting the Las Vegas pass attack. Go over there. Offensive pass protection 9th. New York Jets 25th at generating a rush on defense. And then we look at the adjusted line yards for Jets on the run game is pretty good. Vegas run blocking also actually pretty good there. So I think that's kind of a wash. Vegas probably going to have to lean heavier on the pass attack to get the job done. Their implied total, 28, 47 on the thing with a monster lead. I think Vegas, if they're going to be scoring points, they're going to be moving the ball through the air. So I think Derek Carr disappointed a ton of people last week. He's still in play. And what usually happens if these guys disappoint in these smash spots, went to Atlanta, gave you negative points, and people are going to be so put off by that, like, well, if he couldn't produce against Atlanta, how is he going to produce against the Jets? Well, he's probably going to, and if they're going to be moving the ball in Vegas with an 8.5-point total, or an 8.5-point underdog there for the Jets, I think Carr is going to be in play here, and he's going to be throwing it to Nelson Aguilar, and Darren Waller would be the two top targets on my list. Waller especially at tight end. Now that we don't have Kelsey on this slate, he should be the top choice. Baltimore also not on the slate, so we don't have Mark Andrews. He's got COVID anyway, so I don't know if he's going to play. But Waller is probably your top tight end target if you're going to pay up. And then getting Nelson Aguilar or Henry Ruggs. Ruggs just doesn't seem like he's that good, but always the potential to break a long one. And then on the New York Jets side, we actually have their offensive run blocking at 16th, Vegas 23rd. Vegas has been kind of bad against the run all year. despite what number 23 says. But that's the Jets' best option there. Their pass protection is really poor. I could see Frank Gore somehow having a decent game against the Vegas Raiders there, and possibly like a cash option, a safe cash option this week. So watch out for that. 39-year-old, 49-year-old Frank Gore going into your DFS lineup. That's 2020 for you guys. Next game on the slate here, we have New York Giants at Seattle. This is a 46.5 point total being bet down from the opening by the Vegas powerhouses there. So this is number 8 out of the 11 on the slate. Adjusted line play report is suggesting New York Giants defense here. So we look at their defense here and here. 15th at generating pass rush, which is middle of the road. Seattle offensive pass protection 31st. Giants should be able to get after Seattle. And Seattle's run game is kind of their strong suit as far as their offensive line, and the Giants aren't that bad comparatively. So Seattle probably going to get quite a bit of pass rush there from the Giants, and I could see the Giants being 1 or 2 turnovers in this game just based off of the pressure and a few sacks, even with Russell Wilson's mobility. So keep that in mind. And then when you have a mismatch like that, you can always look at the lower A-dot targets from that team. Seattle low A-dot targets leans heavier towards Lockett, and then maybe their tight ends and David Moore. You can also spin the narrative that if they're getting after Wilson, he does have the mobility to get out of the pocket. When the plays break down, Lockett used to be his big deep target. He could still be, but now he's looking a lot of times for DK Metcalf. The dude is just a beast, just way bigger than everybody else out there. If you think Bradbury's going to shut him down, that's a potential possibility with Metcalf, but I would doubt it. He's kind of overmatched everybody else there. But yeah, keep that in mind. Otherwise, the adjusted line play report not really suggesting much from this particular game other than that the Giants run attack. I know people have been starting Gallman recently. They might not be very good. And Seattle's actually been getting after the quarterback a lot better than they were at the beginning of the year. They were in the 30s there for the pass rush. They're up to 12th now, which means they're just getting better and better. Giants are starting a backup quarterback. If you wanted to start Seattle's defense, not necessarily based off of the adjusted line report, but the narrative of backup quarterback and the fact that they're getting better, and maybe they're going to be in the green here soon, you could certainly roll that out as an option. Los Angeles Rams at Arizona is the next one on the slate. We have a 48.5 point total there, with Arizona actually 3-point home underdogs there. Los Angeles Rams 3-point road favorites. This line at 48.5 has been bet steady, so hasn't gone up or down as the time of this recording, which is Thursday. Obviously, these things are updated in real time, so some of these lines might move, obviously, by the time Sunday rolls around, giving any injuries that happen or COVID cases that happen during the rest of the week. But as it is, Rams at Arizona, 4th out of 11 teams there on the slate. Adjusted line play report suggesting the Los Angeles Rams pass attack. We have their offensive pass protection at 2nd. Arizona 17th at generating a rush. Should have plenty of time. Jared Goff would be in play here. Robert Woods has kind of taken over the wide receiver room there the last few weeks, garnering lots and lots of attention and lots of production. Does get those weird, 5 to 10 yards from the end zone. Red zone looks on the ground as well, end arounds and whatnot. But if you're going to go that pass game, Goff obviously in play, and then Woods, Kupp, Josh Reynolds would be my top 3 options, followed by their tight ends if you wanted to flip a coin which one you think might score a touchdown or get 3 receptions in the game. Be my guest, but I won't be putting them in any of my lineups. With this being the 4th, it is quite a bit behind the 3rd. We don't have anything on the Arizona side necessarily. Offensive pass protection kind of a wash there. Run blocking kind of a wash. When that's the case, we've kind of seen where it's just your usual suspects on that team or in that game that are going to produce your fantasy results. So if you think this is going to be one of the higher totals, you could play Murray, you could play DeAndre Hopkins, you could play Drake potentially here. The adjusted line play report is basically suggesting that there's no mismatches. You can't target one way or the other. Typically when that's the case, it's just your usual fantasy producers that give you the points. So keep that in mind. Second to the last game on the slate here, we have New England Patriots at the Los Angeles Chargers. 47.5 point total. The line says pick 'em. No favorites, no underdogs. Both 24.5 point or 24 point totals there. This is the fifth highest on the slate at 47.5, being bet down by Vegas. So Vegas has been pushing that line down from the opening. And what we have on here for the adjusted line play report is the Los Angeles Chargers pass attack. Justin Herbert. Of course, you got to get your boy Allen in there. Keenan Allen just ripping it up lately. And then I would look at Hunter Henry. Those are probably your two most reliable passing options. And then your deeper targets for a DFS tournament, you'd be looking at Mike Williams or Jalen Guyton, hopefully popping into the end zone or getting some long receptions there. They're just too inconsistent to be considered in any sort of cash lineup, but in a tournament they do have touchdown and long touchdown upside there. So the Los Angeles Chargers pass attack, 14th in pass protection. New England actually really bad, 27th and 28th in their defensive stats there, so watch out for that. New England's defense pretty poor. I think the Chargers will be able to move the ball on them, especially through the air. And then we have the New England run game. That's kind of what they do. They know their defense is bad. They just try to run the clock and keep it close. Offensive line is fourth in run blocking. Chargers have been run all over this year, and they've got some key injuries there on defense. They're 26th in the adjusted line yards there. The main production comes from Harris. He doesn't get the valuable production, though. If he would ever get the end zone 5-yard out carries, that would be nice, but they go to James White for some reason last week. 2 5-yard pitches from your boy Cam Newton. Cam Newton runs them in, so Harris basically devoid of getting into the end zone, but he produces at like a 5.5, 6-yard per carry clip to get him down there. He just doesn't get into the end zone, but he would be the one running back from the New England run game that I would get in there. And with that being said, I guess if you wanted to run a naked Cam Newton and think he's going to score 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns in this game, and he'll be the only offense there, you could probably do that as well. Final game on the slate, we have Philadelphia at Green Bay, with Green Bay 8.5 point home favorites. Again, tied for fifth here with the previous game, the Chargers and the Patriots there. This game also being bet down from its open, and the adjusted line play report here suggesting the Green Bay defense here. We have their defense right here and right here. 11th in the pass rush. Philadelphia dead last in offensive pass protection. It's partly Wentz's fault, it's partly the line's fault, but man, do they look bad, and they give a lot of sacks, a lot of turnovers. Green Bay defense definitely in play here. The odd thing is I think Philadelphia's run blocking on offense is a slight mismatch. Green Bay does get ran on, so I think Miles Sanders might be able to run on these guys. Otherwise, Philly's strong suit is their defense, 4th in pass rush, 4th in the adjusted line yards for run game on defense as well. But that's where Green Bay's strong suits are too. Offensive pass protection, 4th. Run blocking, 8th. So I think Green Bay is kind of neutralizing Philly's strong suit, which is their defensive line and their defense in general. I think Green Bay is going to pull away from this. And if they're going to be scoring points, look for Devontae Adams and Rodgers probably be doing most of the work. Seems like they don't want to give their running backs a huge workload, and they're just comfortable throwing to Devontae Adams within the 5-yard line of the end zone. So, but yeah, according to the adjusted line play report, you'd be looking at Green Bay defense and maybe Miles Sanders from Philadelphia. Otherwise, that's going to do it for us today on the Week 13 DFS adjusted line play report. Hope you guys gained some knowledge. Again, this is being recorded on Thursday, so there's quite a few and maybe potentially week blowing up type of situations that could happen with COVID or any sort of injuries from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Keep that in mind. But hopefully you gain some knowledge here then you can apply to your DFS lineups this week. If you want some more information, I'll probably be posting some of my DFS lineups over on the Facebook page, Zilla Fantasy Elite. Go there, give it a follow, and you can get some of those lineups that I post on there. And then head over to Twitter, give me a follow there, at ToddZilla1337. And as always on the YouTube, just click that subscribe button, click the bell, and let's win some money together. How about that? Week 13. Thanks for watching, everybody. That's going to be the end of this episode. Let's go win some money together. Bye.
Mm-hmm.